This is The Clash, where the real world clashes with a true Christian worldview. Join former professional wrestler Chris Whaley, known as the Masked Saint, who is an author, pastor, and teacher that brings his wrestling skills into the squared circle and tackles real-life issues. Along with Jeff Dixon, best-selling author, internationally known teacher, leader, and pastor who is not afraid to tackle the tough issues of the world we live in. Together they form a tag team of wisdom in The Clash.
Welcome to The Clash, where we take a Christian worldview and allow it to clash into the world that we live in. Now, along the way, we hope that we say something, or you see something, or hear something that will inspire, encourage, stretch you, and challenge you just a little bit in your journey of faith. And we hope it will be a little bit of fun along the way. I'm Jeff Dixon, and I'm joined once again by the co-host of this amazing TV show, the Saint himself, Chris Whaley. How you doing, Chris?
Excellent, Jeff. And you know what? I love to tease people a little bit. Do you?
Well, yeah, for the most part. And I know we're filming right now, but I want to talk to you about that because, see, I don't know what this show's about.
That's why it's so fun to tease you with it.
Because it's just like a special event, a special show.
Yeah.
And so I don't really know what we're doing here today.
Yeah, well, this is kind of fun for me because, you know, you are always so creative and you do such amazing stuff, and I just kind of sit there in awe of you. So this is one time that you got to be in awe of me because I know what's happening and you don't.
Okay, so when are you going to tell us?
After the commercial.
Hi, I don't know if you're like I am, but some mornings I sit and I drink a cup of coffee and I ponder the world that we live in. And I think to myself, how do we take our Christian worldview and allow it to clash into the culture around us? And sometimes as I'm drinking my coffee, I'm motivated because I'm drinking out of my Clash coffee mug. That's right, this Clash coffee mug. I use it just about every morning. And you know what? You can have one just like it too by visiting the Clash store. Because nothing like pondering the world we live in over a good cup of coffee. And nothing makes the coffee taste better than an official Clash mug. No kidding. Don't believe me? Try it. We don't have a money-back guarantee, but just try it. It works.
Well, we have a little bit of a different twist today on the Clash because it's a first, Jeff.
It's a first?
It's a first.
Today?
This is the first repeat as far as the person that we're interviewing. This is his second time.
Yeah, but if we're going to do a rerun, why are we here?
It's not a rerun.
Oh, it's not a rerun.
No, it's just the person is a repeat, not what he's going to say.
So he's not the same person we interviewed before?
Get out of here.
Okay, just check. I just want to make sure I didn't know what we were talking about here. I didn't get the memo on this show. What's going on?
We're blessed today to have back with us Richie Scruggs, who has a wonderful ministry called Wrestling for Christ, which we have had.
Yes, we have.
At the church at 434, and it's always a hoot, is it
great.
not?
Fantastic.
It really is.
Yeah.
Richie, man, it is great to have you back with us.
Guys, it is great to be back. I tell people all the time, this is probably one of the greatest programs out there, the Clash. Very informative from A to Z. Just blessed to be asked to come back on here. What a joy it is to see you guys again.
Well, if we have anything going for us, it's because we get great guests like you. It's certainly in spite of the host.
Oh, man.
I know that for sure. So, but hey, it's good to see you again, man.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are the Sonny and Cher of the internet. Let me tell you that.
I'm funny.
I guess I'll be Cher.
You jail. You
That's
guys
right.
are just, you're naturals at this. Every episode, you're naturals. You kind of
Hey, Richie, for those that don't know who you are, please tell us about your wrestling career.
Well, guys, my name's Richie Scruggs. I live in Shelby, North Carolina. I'm a Christian first who just happens to wrestle, and I use wrestling as a way to share the gospel. My ministry, or our ministry, is Wrestling for Christ Ministries, based out of Shelby, North Carolina. We're just a group of Christian men who travel. Jeff and Pastor Chris, as well as anybody that, there's multiple, everybody has a pulpit. Some share the gospel through preaching, some share the gospel through singing, Some share it through teaching. We just happen to use a 16 by 16 ring as our pulpit, and we share it through wrestling. We set up this ring here in the Carolinas, Georgia. You guys just mentioned a second ago. We've been to your church as well, and I do want to thank you for that, having us there. That support went a long ways in our ministry this past year in the Philippines, but we do travel all over the country setting up the ring. We put on 2 or 3 matches. Then we have the local pastor or a guest speaker come in and share the gospel at each and every one of our events. And we kind of set ourselves apart. When people see wrestling or hear wrestling, they think of what you see on WWE. And we are that same type of wrestling, but we kind of set ourselves apart by the way we dress, by the way we come to the ring, by the way we act in and out of the ring, the music. Everything's just different when it comes to wrestling for Christ. We want to be different. We want to be the same as far as the wrestling goes, but we want to be different. We want people to know. We don't want them to see us. We want them to see Jesus through us, and that's just who we are, and that's what we do.
But you've wrestled some of the biggest names in the business, though.
Oh yes, sir. I had my very first match July 4th, 1990. So I'm going on 35 years in the business. But July 4th, 1990, against Ivan Koloff. A lot of people will remember Ivan as the Russian Bear, and of course Nikita, which he's been on the show before here at the Clash. I've wrestled Jimmy Snuka, you name it. I've wrestled about anybody and everybody in the business. Been blessed to be able to share the ring with some of the greatest to ever lace up their boots. Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, Matt and Jeff Hardy. Been on cards from anybody from A to Z, you name it. I've pretty much been around them. God's really blessed me in this profession we call wrestling. And I still do it today. We have big events planned for the next several months. We've got the fairs coming up. We've just got in with a lot of fairs, which is great because that's a built-in crowd. Yeah. Not your typical Wrestling for Christ crowd, but we're looking forward to being able to share the gospel with them as well. Everybody needs to hear the gospel.
They do. Well, now you also, though, Wrestling for Christ also has a weekly television show here on Abundant TV, right?
Yes, sir, we do. The Saturday night Praise and Power Hour comes on at 6 o'clock. I think we have a replay that comes on Tuesdays or Thursdays now. So we're on actually twice a week. But we do televise, do national TV tapings at every one of our events, church shows, Legion shows, fair shows. Everything we do will be televised on our weekly television program. Saturday night Praise and Power Hour with Jody Powell. We call him Gentleman Jody Powell. You guys know Jody, and he actually has another show, Falls Count Anywhere, on Abundant TV. We are really enjoying our time on Abundant TV. Plus, it gives the guys an opportunity to be seen worldwide, not just here local Carolina shows.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead. Now, tell us, though, because you mentioned it in passing. We talked about this when you were with us before on the show. You spend a great deal of time, or regularly get to the Philippines. And one of the reasons we wanted to have you back today is we know that you are kind of fresh off a mission trip in that area again. And so we wanted to let you kind of share what's been happening there, what you guys were doing, some of the things that took place. And we just want kind of that conversation to catch us up, but also to catch our audience up so they can know what they've been praying for with you and see how it turned out.
Oh, yes, sir. I just got back. I was over there for a month. I took the month of July. Me and my team were over there. This all started back in 2008 when I was traveling alone to the Philippines, and I've always used wrestling as a means to share the gospel. I always take my belts with me, and for the first several years, it was me by myself, passing out gospel tracts and going on visitations with some of the local churches, and then we had a pastor. Jess Kawili is his name. He came to the United States to raise support for his ministry and actually came to one of our events. And he had asked me, he said, Brother Richie, if I build a ring in the Philippines, will you come? And I said, yes, sir, we will. So in 2017, he built a 16 by 16 ring. 2019, we made our first trip over there as a team. We wrestled at a lot of local national high schools there in the Philippines. And so it started there in 2019, but to get you up to date, we were there this past July 1st through the 16th. We ran 5 wrestling crusades. And not only do we wrestle, I tell people all the time, it's bigger than wrestling. It's not just the wrestling. The wrestling is the cake, but sharing the gospel is the icing on the cake, is how I tell everybody. But this year we got to get involved in feeding the community ministry. We did 2 of those, fed several thousand children and their families. We did a back to school drive, the Wrestling Christ Ministry team did, where we bought school supplies and handed them out to the children over there at several of our events. We also pass out Bibles at our local events there. But we did 5. And we saw 3,200 Filipinos of all ages come to know Christ through those 5 wrestling crusades.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's fantastic.
Mm.
Guys, what we do is the shows that we run here in the States, and the shows like we ran at your church there, Brother Jeff, all that support goes to the ministry, which gets the team over there. And while we're there, everything is free to the Filipinos. We don't charge anything for any of these events. And I think our smallest crowd this year was about 4,000. We got 4,000. We've actually wrestled in front of 15,000 over there. You know, we've actually been in the ring and been able to look while we're in the ring, and they're up in the trees, they're standing on rooftops, they're standing on fences, just to see the Americans and to hear the gospel. They are so receptive to what we're doing. And I tell people this all the time, it's hard to believe that you can actually go somewhere in this world and they've not heard the gospel. But guys, we go to places over there, like the indigenous tribes. We wrestled in Dingalan, Aurora, and I want to say there was about 5,000 at that event. But they are indigenous people. They don't have a language, but those pastors have been able to share the gospel in their own way. And at that event alone, we had over 1,000 accept Christ.
Wow.
So
well, how did they find? I mean, so when you move into these areas like you were just talking about, I mean, how do folks find out you're there? How do you get ramped up and set up for that?
Well, Pastor Jess, Pastor Jess is actually our host pastor, and he has a younger brother, JP. They're both pastors. JP is in Metro Manila, which is, you know, the largest city in the Philippines. He has a couple of churches there that he pastors. He goes out to a lot of the local schools, to the local communities, and pretty much does all the advertising for us. And it's funny, and it's not us, guys. Like I said, it's not us. But when they say professional wrestling, it draws a crowd. Wrestling here in the States is the same way. When they think professional, and they don't care who you are. You could be Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn out there wrestling each other. Wrestling. They cheer for the good guys just as much as they do the bad guys. It's just always action-packed. You know, I tell people this too, guys. We draw them into the table and we let the local pastors feed them. And what I mean by that is we bring them to the show, to the ring, and then the pastors share the gospel with them. And you can, I mean, we're talking 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people, but when Pastor Jess or Pastor JP gets in the ring to share the gospel, you can hear a pin drop. Yeah. They are that receptive to what he has to say. And it's just amazing how it works. God's really blessed us through this ministry. It works here in America, but it's different when you're there. They don't have we reach the poorest of the poor. And what I mean by that is we have people come to these shows, Filipinos that come to these shows with barely any clothes on. Most of them have no shoes. Most of them haven't eaten. That's why we did the feeding ministry this year, which was unbelievable, getting just to feed them for free. And it was just spaghetti with hot dog weenies chopped up in it. And you'd be amazed at the number of Filipinos that have never had spaghetti. They don't even know what it is. Yeah. But just to see them on those styrofoam plates, eat that spaghetti, and guys, I could take those plates back to the grocery store. They are that clean when they get through eating. It's amazing. So it is bigger than the wrestling. We do get to share the gospel, not just at the wrestling events. We share it at the vacation Bible schools that we hold. We go out into the villages. Like I said, we go out into the poorest of the poor, knock on doors, and they just love to hear the gospel. They love they're such happy people anyways. They're not spoiled. They do not realize that they don't have anything. They got the best of everything. And that's just the way they look at it. They got the best of everything. If they just get one meal a day, one meal every 2 days, they are so thankful for everything. So then we get to present the gospel to them. It's just amazing to see the look in their eyes for them to think, you mean there's somebody that loves me here in the Philippines? There's somebody that loves me this much that they sent their son to die for me so that I could live for. It's just that easy. If it were only that easy in America, here around the Carolinas, Georgia, but it's the easiest thing to do in the Philippines. They want to hear the gospel. They want to hear it. They want to know it, and they want to live it. And we found out this year, and guys, I could ramble on and on, but I found out this year that our first event in 2019, we had close to 500 professions of faith. And I found out this past trip that a majority of those young people that got saved at that event have now went on to Bible school and are working full time in the ministry.
Wow.
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 That's incredible.
Well, one of the things I was going to ask too is because of the way it's set up, and again, we're looking at this from stateside, right? So we don't know. So you have that wrestling event. 1,000 come to know Christ. You may not even know the answer to all of this, but how does then your local pastors there jump in and try to follow up with that crowd? What happens when you're gone?
Well, what they do, and it's kind of like we do here, they find where, and there's not a lot of Baptist churches over there. There's a lot of Roman Catholic churches, but they find areas to promote these events where they already know there's a few local churches, and they invite those pastors, youth pastors, worship leaders, so to speak, to these events. And then they just follow up with them. It's amazing when you say, hey, listen, now that you've accepted Christ, I don't know if you knew this or not, but there's a church just a mile down the road here that we would love for you to come join, visit the pastor. And if the pastor's there, of course, they introduce them to that local pastor. But it's amazing how that works, how they just, Pastor Jess and Pastor JP know the right areas. We did two national high schools this year, which had quite a few local churches in the area, and it was just, it's that easy, but they plan it out. There's a strategy to it, where we wrestle at. Like when we did the indigenous tribe, we wrestled up on top of the mountain in Dingalana Aurora, and we wrestled right there on the property of the local church, and they were just coming out of the jungle. And when I say coming out of the jungle, you could see them coming up the hill. They knew something was going on. They knew there was an event happening. They heard the cheering. They heard the screaming, hollering. They saw the ring. Guys, that was one of the shows where you could look out, and they were on top of the coconut trees, just propped up in the leaves and the limbs of the coconut trees, watching that event. And then those local pastors just have a way of getting the scripture to them in their native tongue. You'd be amazed. I tell people all the time, it's you can see it on the pictures and the videos that I share, but to be able to be hands-on, it's a whole different thing when you're there with your hands on it. I don't know how else to explain it.
Now, Richie, in talking with you, when you go over there, I think you usually have more guys that go with you when you go. This year was a little different, was it not? That you even had one person that ended up having to have surgery and wasn't able to go with you. So how many guys did you have, and how did you pull that off?
Believe it or not, Travis is one of our main guys. Travis has been with the ministry from the get-go. He had major surgery. It was, at one time they didn't even know if he was going to survive, but he had major blood clot issues in his legs. And from his ankle up to his hip, he had over 100 stitches where they had to go in and remove blood clots and reroute blood vessels and veins. And we prayed and prayed and prayed, and the Lord saw fit for him to be able to go. So he did make it with us. And then right before we left, the doctor gave him clearance to be able to wrestle. So the whole team, God just made things happen. He always does. It's easy to doubt sometimes, but my wife's always saying, she said, you just fret over stuff instead of fretting over it, pray about it. And we prayed about it and prayed about it. And Travis gave us the good news right before we left. So Travis did get to go. We were short a couple of guys this time, but we made it work. We only had 2 matches. We had one match, and then we had the preach, which gave us more time to share the gospel. And then we had the big main event. But yeah, it works. I'm telling you, it works.
Okay. And you've had shoulder surgery, and you have
yeah, I wasn't actually cleared to wrestle, but I did. I tore my pectoral back in March. My rotator cuff, my bicep, and the recovery for that's a year, 9 months before I can do anything. But there again, we just prayed about it, and the guys that I'm with, I trust them with everything that I do, and they trust me with everything we just were comfortable with each other, and we just knew that we were going to be okay. God had us, and we knew that, and it was probably our greatest trip. Some of the best matches we've probably ever had with some of the biggest crowds, and it worked. It worked. God saw fit to put everything together. No hiccups whatsoever. Well, I say no hiccups whatsoever. The guys came back on the 16th of July, and then I traveled over to another part of the Philippines, and I actually survived 2 typhoons while I was over there. Back to back, 14 days of straight monsoon rains. A lot of the Filipinos weren't so lucky where I was at, and it was a planned trip. So I was already planning on going to Santa Maria, Bulacan to be with a pastor friend of mine in his church. So we were on higher ground, but the day we left, or the guys left left Metro Manila and Tarlac, the typhoon Whippa hit and flooded the entire area. Loss of lives, loss of churches. I've got videos on my Facebook page where one of our local pastors, when I say they go to church, they don't let anything stop them. One of our local pastors, it was waist deep water, and I didn't think there was any way they were going to be able to have church. Well, he saw an opportunity. He gutted a refrigerator and put it on 2 bamboo posts and made a pontoon boat. And him and his youth pastors loaded his people up in there 2 and 3 at a time in that refrigerator shell, pulled them across the flooded water to the church, and they had church. They didn't miss a lick. There was a young couple getting married. The church was completely flooded. You couldn't even see the pews. The water was waist deep, and the pastor and the bride and the groom said, "Listen, this is scheduled. We're having a wedding today." And they pulled their breeches legs up. The bridesmaids pulled their skirts up, and they were in waist deep water in the church, and they got married. So they do not. I mean, they deal with it. They're used to it. They adapt. They overcome, and so we still had church every day. But the 2 typhoons, that's something I've never. And back to back. Yeah, I was going to ask, while I'm on here, we need to continue to pray for those guys. I talked to one of our pastors yesterday that lost all their vehicles. And I've got videos where you can see the top of the cars, but they're just completely lost. But they're going to go on. They're going to overcome all that and continue to serve the Lord, and that's just what they do.
What is the and again, I'm fascinated and excited about what God's been doing. For these churches, what does recovery look like for them, though? Where are there groups, organizations, people helping them, or they have to figure it out for themselves?
They kind of have like we have here, in the United States. They have groups that go in and help restore stuff, help rebuild, but 90% of it is their own people. Okay. I know the churches themselves, their own church members, the ladies, the men, they're one big family, and they just all come together and clean up and rebuild. And it's amazing. You would be, it's kind of like their very own Red Cross. They are so used to this that they're never ready for it, but they always overcome it, I guess is how I need to say that. Sure. This pastor, they'll sweep the church out, clean the church up, dry the pews off. But they've probably not missed a service. They have not missed a service. The floods Sunday morning, they still had service. They just, a lot of those churches over there have no electricity, so that's not anything that they have to worry about. So they just come in, knee deep water, and have service.
Well, you were there for approximately a month, right, Richie?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. I was.
Well, out of that month, I'm sure there has to be, something that happened maybe 1 or 2 or 3 times while you were there that just really gripped you when you saw it or experienced it? Was there anything like that for you while you were there?
Well, we were just amazed at the way the families came together for our feeding ministry. I've never been involved in anything like that, where the ladies, just all the church ladies and people from the community come together and provided all the meals to the children, to the parents, and then of course being through the typhoon. Never really was scared because I knew God had me taken care of. He was going to take care of me and take care of the church I was at. I was on the third floor. But just that there, and then being able to get out and seeing the damage and the floods, and being in places where dead animals were floating around in the water, and just such devastation that I've never seen here other than on the news. I mean, I've been through Hurricane Hugo here in the United States back in the late '80s, but to be there and see it, see just the devastation, seeing the cars under the water. But you know what? I said all that, and I'll say this too: that being out, seeing all the flooding and stuff, I was able to see kids playing basketball in waist deep water, and instead of passing the ball, they would push it and it would float to the next player. It's just amazing, that the kids play in the water, seeing them make little boats out of bamboo, and just have all the devastation around them, and they were still smiling. The kids were smiling, the parents, just like Pastor Reggie at his church. He called that little refrigerator. He asked me what I thought about his yacht. He said, "Brother Richie, what do you think about our yacht?" And I got videos where they would I'm telling you, it's amazing. And it was I actually got to go to the church, didn't get to get in the church, but was standing on the road. And it was probably a good 200 yards from the road where the church was. And of course, I just didn't feel comfortable wading in knee deep, waist deep water with stuff that I saw floating around in the water. They're used to it. And they were okay with that. But just to know that he saw an opportunity to make something happen and still have church. Here, if it's raining a little bit too hard, we have a tendency to say, "It's raining too much. I'm not throwing it out. I'll stay at home and watch it on live stream." Well, they don't have live stream. They have church. And they don't make excuses. They make a way. They don't make excuses. They make a way. And those pastors, those church members, they make a way, and they go to church. They go to, they don't have a whole lot, but that's one thing they do have. They have Jesus.
Jeff, we got some dead air time. What are you doing?
Chris, I'm looking at the Church at 434 app. It's an incredible app. It's absolutely free. And you can watch us, you can watch video, you can get resources for your walk and your journey of faith, and it's absolutely free. Just go to the Church at 434 and your app store, Google Play, and just download it and join us online all the time. Man, I hate to interrupt what's going on here, but I can tell by the clock on the wall that we're out of time, and the Clash has to come to an end this week. But there's so much more that we need to hear and see from Richie. So what do you think we ought to do next time?
I think we ought to carry this on and listen to the rest of what Richie's got to say. What do you think?
So we're going to do a part 2?
Oh, excellent. Yeah, why not?
By all means, let's do it.
Yeah, I want to do that. Is there anything that just really kind of stood out to you in this first episode?
Well, I love Richie's heart. I love what he does. Of course, and he's a friend. Mm-hmm. But more than anything else, I'm glad you finally let me know what we were doing today.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I won't do that to you again because you know what the next one's about, right?
Yeah, I know what part 2 is going to be. Yeah,
you already know what part 2 is going to be. So, hey, we hope you have a great, great week. Don't forget to come back next week, and don't tap out.